Could I run ads targeting Republicans in primaries saying that they voted for the Green New Deal?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
It's Saturday, November 2nd, 2019. Fauxcahontas in Chief Liz WarPaint Warren proposes flushing $22 trillion down the toilet and destroying the gig economy for dessert. California Representative Katie Hill goes on a bender and bears all. Smug neoliberal idiots prove they have no idea how money or the internet work. And trans pundit Blair White roasts trans activist Jessica Yaniv's Chestnuts over an open fire. How you doing?
All right.
Quick.
Yes. Welcome back to the Libation Station, Clyde, and all our viewers and listeners. Pull up a stool, pour yourself something bracing.
Yes.
It's early afternoon here at the Libation Station. We're doing coffee. Tell us a little about this coffee, if you would.
Well, what we have today
Yeah.
is Cafe Bustelo. This is something, again, not endorsing us. This is not a commercial for Cafe Bustelo. Just something that I've found some affinity for over in my own life. It's extraordinarily cheap. It's like $3 for a pound of it.
Okay.
And it's an espresso roast. It's very dark, very robust. If you're having a nice espresso, this one's going to be really low on the list. But at its price point, I think it's a solid win.
Pleased. It's got put a little pep in your step too.
It does put some pep in your step. So since we're having some coffee, Barney, I wanted to present you with a belated birthday gift.
What do you got there? All right. Thank you so much.
See if you can get in that thing there. It's sort of dude gift wrapped.
All right. Let's see.
I think it just has a flap.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
All right,
in honor of recent events.
I love it. I love it.
Your very own human scum coffee mug.
Thank you, Clyde. Thank you.
You are welcome, sir.
Well, most of you are probably long timers, but for anybody that's new, we do this fortnightly and forthrightly.
That's right.
The format is that we do an hour, and we generally have 4 segments where we observe different things that are on the nation's plate of a cultural, political, economic matter. And we got some good ones today, Clyde. Tell us
I think so. So we're going to start with Fauxcahontas, Liz Warren.
Oh, yeah. We already told him, didn't we? I think
we told him our 4 breakdowns, but let's get into
let's
Warren's
get into
plan.
One.
Do you want to lead with what she's proposing?
Most of the Dem Prez candidates have some form of doubling down on the Affordable Care Act,
right.
Further socializing,
right? Which they said wasn't going to be the case,
right? And now that Beto has bowed out,
Beto bit the dust.
Beto bit the dust, and it looks like Kamala Harris. I mean, she's shuttered her campaign office in New Hampshire.
Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard was beating her in the numbers.
Yeah, and so the field's starting to narrow, but and Biden's polling less favorably, and so it appears that there's kind of a horse race going on between Bernie and Fauxcahontas, and they're kind of trying to out-socialist each other with regard to health care, and she's got this Medicare for all.
Which is Sanders' plan and his name for it.
Yes,
so she has totally appropriated that. And
yes.
Not only has she appropriated a native identity, she's also appropriated Sanders' economic plans.
What doesn't the lady not...
She'll steal anything, including your money.
Yeah, exactly. But a number of wonks have run the numbers, and the dang thing is going to cost $52 trillion over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
That's more in any given one of those years than the entire federal budget currently.
Yeah. So I saw this on Fox News site. They put this perspective of how big $52 trillion is.
Okay, tell us about it.
So these are, it says here, in case $52 trillion is hard to wrap your head around, here are some stats to help you put the figure in perspective. Okay, all United States corporate profits, 2.08 trillion. The combined net worth of the world's 2,153 billionaires, 8.7 trillion.
Okay.
Okay. Total U.S. national debt, 22.9 trillion. Total value of the U.S. stock market, 32.3 trillion. So this is 20 trillion more than the entire value of the entire U.S. stock market. The total value of all U.S. homes, 33.3 trillion. Total spending on healthcare in the United States from 1960 to 2017, 59.6 trillion. How much revenue or taxes the U.S. government has received in its history? 76.7 trillion. So in the entire history of the United States, we've only captured 20 trillion more than she's asking for in tax revenue in the 200-year history.
Yeah.
And the total world combined GDP is 86.6 trillion.
Yeah.
Okay, how much the U.S. government has spent in its entire history? 91.7 trillion. So she's proposing that we spend on healthcare
over the next 10 years.
Over the next 10 years, half of what the United States has spent on everything it's spent on anything.
Yeah, roads, bridges, defense, healthcare, whatever. Yeah, farm subsidies.
In that amount of time, that's what she's proposing, and I think it's quite insane.
Yeah, well, and Fox is not the only news outlet. Some that are known to lean left, NPR and I believe CNN, have also pointed up this same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Biden's having a heyday with it. He's saying it's untenable. It's there's no way it's feasible.
Right.
And but do we have the clip of her talking about what health care people in the health insurance field, what will happen to them if they're booted out of their
I didn't
careers?
have that clip.
Okay.
Is that one that you sent me?
I'm not sure. But in any event, she talked about how, well, they'll find jobs dealing with auto insurance and home insurance. And some of them will go to work for Medicare for All.
Right.
Some of them might say, piss on all this, I'm going into an entirely different field.
Yeah, and like we were saying before the show, we were just chatting, but that's exactly the crazy reaction that the left had when it was suggested that people would learn to code when their jobs were displaced, which I don't think anybody ever said, with any seriousness that, well, if a trucker loses his job to automation, that they're going to learn to code. I mean,
right.
That's not what anyone was really proposing, but just that there are other jobs out there, and that the economy, due to new technologies and new ways of doing business, might change significantly, and it might change for the better, and there might actually be more jobs.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be different, and people will have to adapt. They've always had to adapt.
Well, sure, but it's generally happened organically as a result of the market. Things evolve in an evolutionary manner, not because government disrupted people's career lives. Yeah. Yeah.
But when don't you have to adapt? We've always had to adapt to changing, economics.
Yeah.
People have moved for jobs.
Yeah. Joseph Schumpeter's theory of creative destruction. Yeah. And we talked about that before.
And my question is, they're saying, well, a person shouldn't have to do that. The person should be able to, stay where they're at and be with their families and all this kind of stuff. And I agree with that. I think people would probably prefer that. Yeah. But what happens when the government is dictating what job you have, or what job you can have, or how you get educated, and then they decide that the jobs that they're going to provide, and that's part of Liz Warren's plan, and part of Sanders' plan, is that the government's going to be providing all these jobs. When they decide where those jobs are, aren't you going to have to go and move to those jobs?
Yeah, right. And once again, we're big on basic principles, core principles on BNC. And you and I, anecdotal stuff like, I had this happen to me, and everybody needs to hear about the particulars. I don't want to go too far down there, but you and I have both had some health situations that caused us to have to dig into our pockets beyond what our insurance would cover. And a lot of people would probably say to either of us, well, you see, that'll all be different if we have universal health care.
Different.
For all. Yeah. I'm sorry. That's not, the core principle I was getting to is that it's impossible by definition to have a right to health care.
Yeah.
You cannot have a right to the effort of your fellow human being. Down that slope lies the S word. Not too far down it, in fact. And so I would say to people who say, Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And to those people who would say, "Well, you see, you'll have it so much easier with universal health care." No, because I don't care how sick I would ever get. I have no right to get the government to force taxpayers in Tennessee and Montana and Hawaii to cough up their hard-earned money to help me with my doctor bills.
Yeah.
It is not a proper use of government's monopoly on the use of power to take from citizen A to address the specific needs or wants of citizen B.
That's right.
It's called redistribution.
And I think it's also unfair to make the comparison that somehow the United States model is a good model and that it's a laissez-faire capitalist marketplace.
Never has been.
It's not. It's highly regulated. There's tons of monopolized geographic areas.
Mm-hmm.
The government decides where and when you can build a hospital, where and when you can build a surgery center. In a lot of cases, they dictate how much you can charge for products and services.
Yes.
And you know, they also spend, I think it was 54% of all spending in healthcare in the United States is by the government. So we're talking about a highly regulated, highly already socialized industry. So I think it's fair to say, okay, well, maybe some type of single payer system might be better than the U.S. system. But the U.S. system is the worst of both worlds. It's a corrupt, cronyized system that's infiltrated by the cronies and by the government.
You bet. Of course, she also let loose with another humdinger this week. WarPaint Warren, a.k.a. Fauxcahontas.
This one kills me. I don't understand why everyone is so down on the gig economy.
Because it's people doing what they want with their occupation.
It's people, being free to do what they want when they want to do it.
Yeah. She proposes to make those working for Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, all the food delivery places and all that into employees.
Yeah.
Because that's just not fair that they're not getting retirement benefits and health benefits and blah blah blah. It seems fair to the people that are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I used to drive Uber, and I'm a freelance rider. And a freelance radio journalist. I understand what I have foregone in order to be that way.
You understand it more than Liz Warren for sure. She's
Yeah.
never been there.
Right. This is going to completely destroy the gig economy.
And here's the thing about the gig economy, right?
Yeah.
First of all, there's still a lot of damn jobs. There's a lot of jobby jobs out there.
Right.
There's so many jobs out there that we can't get them filled.
Yes.
Right? So the gig economy, as it's portrayed, it's not. It is what you want it to be, right? It's not for you to necessarily make a living. It's sort of like a minimum wage type of thing. Uber was crafted as a way for people to make some extra money on their commute to work. Mm-hmm. And so I could sign in, I could take a few more people to the office or the area where I'm going. I could make a few bucks. We reduce carbon emissions by getting more people into one car. We can also take the carpool lane and get there faster. Everybody wins, right? Mm-hmm. That's what Uber was sort of conceived as.
Yeah.
And if someone can make a whole living out of that, right, then more power to them. Why shouldn't they? Because if they had to be a taxi driver, they'd have to go through they'd have to buy those licenses.
The medallion.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's like $100,000 for a company to get the rights to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know that number.
And once Uber got going, there were, I think, in particular, the Paris airport over in France, Paris International Airport, there were riots. Taxi drivers were bashing Uber cars with baseball bats and stuff.
Yeah. So who's the real aggressor? Is it Uber or is it the taxi unions and stuff like that?
It's another case of seething resentment at people doing what they've chosen to do. I
took a taxi from Kissimmee, Florida to Disneyland.
Okay.
In like 2001, right? I had no choice. It was September 2001.
Okay.
We actually were in the air during 9/11, and I were stuck there for a couple extra days, and I had to take this taxi, and it was like $100, 20 years ago, to take this taxi from Kissimmee to Disneyland, and I took an Uber in Chicago over equal distance, like 2 years ago.
Okay.
And it was like $11.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why would you want to destroy that? People can get around. People who couldn't afford it before.
Yeah.
Can get around the city without having to own a car. You're not putting more cars on the road. So how does it help the disenfranchised and low-income people for you to make getting around the city incredibly expensive?
Yeah. And Governor Gavin Newsom out in California is already pushing this with a particular industry, and he's stepping on the toes of my occupational brethren out there. He wants to set a limit for freelance writers. Freelance writers, if you submit more than 35 articles to publications, I guess it would be any given publication, in a year's time, there are some outlets for which I'd run that up in a couple, in a half a year.
Is it submissions or submissions that they accept?
I think it must be submissions they accept.
It would have to be.
And
That'd be
anyway,
even too stupid for them.
35, more than 35 submissions, and you are declared an employee of that company.
Yeah. So more than 35 submissions, and you're not going to be able to do any more work than that.
Exactly. Yeah, because when we discussed this earlier, the whole point of you and the venue to which you entered into the arrangement you did is because they didn't want to pay you benefits.
Right. That's right.
And it was fine with you.
Yeah. And there's like things like Thumbtack. Are you familiar with Thumbtack? It's sort of like it's a gig economy thing where it's a lot of people who do handyman things. Right.
Okay. Yes, I have heard of
So handyman things or computer repair, whatever is your trade, you can get some freelance gigs in the evenings or whatever. So if I'm an electrician or if I've done computer work and stuff like that, someone wants to hire me, I want to keep my job. I have a job, a full-time job. I have insurance. I have all that stuff. I support my family with it. But man, a couple $100 extra a week wouldn't hurt. So if I can do a couple of gigs on Thumbtack, that really helps me out. And that's what Thumbtack is for, right? And if I decide I can carve out an entire living doing only Thumbtack and I can leave my job where someone, and I can set my own hours, I can do my own, I can be my own boss, I can take which clients I want to take and don't want to take, I can dictate my own life and be in charge, right? That may come at some kind of cost. Maybe I don't get insurance or maybe I don't get whatever. Right. But as soon as that person's forced to be an employee of this company, guess what's all going to change? They're not going to be their own boss anymore. They're not going to be in charge of their own destiny anymore. Right. They're going to be subject to the rule of a tyrannical employer. Great job, Liz Warren. You just created more, private sector tyranny that you detest so much.
How are we doing time-wise?
Time to move on.
Okay. What's our
next one? We're going to talk about California Representative Katie Hill.
Yes.
And her.
Well, okay. Can I kind of
go for it.
Set the table on this one?
Set the table.
Okay. The big deal now that she has resigned is the big leftist take on it is that she was forced to by a misogynistic culture.
That she was forced to what?
Resign.
To resign. Yeah.
No. Resigning is an act of volition. You always. Item B. Something's been in the last few days. A couple of key details about her situation are being left out of discussion. It's all this once again black and white, either or business. She had an affair with a staffer, and lots of people have had affairs with their staffers.
That's probably true.
Yeah, or she. It was the nude photos that did her in, and the nasty conservative websites that publicize those photos and everything. No, there's a lot more to the story than that. She's got a bad drinking problem, which so do a lot of people in our national legislature over the last 200 years of a head drinking.
Yeah, just couldn't imagine a career that would drive you to drink more.
Right, but yeah, really. But she did. You know, there's a recording of in that has been circulating of her talking to another staffer about who was concerned. Katie, you didn't get in till 3 a.m, and you sounded pretty hammered, and I'm just fine, don't worry about me, and some things like that. Mm-hmm. The other being, I don't know if they're talking about the same staff or not, but she was voluntarily part of a throuple, a mm-hmm. three-way relationship mm-hmm. with her husband, who she's now saying was abusive or whatever, but she was
so
in a three-way
her and
with
this staffer and the luckiest man in the world.
Yeah, really, exactly. And then the business about they're showing nude photos. She exercised really poor judgment. Lots of news photos showing her smoking a bong and displaying a tattoo that had Nazi overtones.
Well, yeah, it was an Iron Cross.
Okay.
So it wasn't like a swastika, but the Iron Cross is...
It goes back in German history.
It does go back, but they used it before the Nazi movement. Right. So, like, you know, as one of the articles that you sent me pointed out, you know, a lot of, like, metal bands and skateboarders.
Sure.
And it's been like it's sort of a punk rock symbol.
Right.
And it has been for a long time.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't see the Iron Cross and go, somebody's a Nazi. And I'm not saying that you're saying that she is.
Right, no. My overall point is that there's a lot of evidence that she doesn't exercise very good judgment about anything. And
that doesn't mean that her nude photos that are on her phone aren't her property and
exactly.
her private situation. And anyone releasing them, honestly, I think is committing a crime and should be charged.
Yeah. And then now, and the cultural conservative in me is starting to, because now you're starting to hear, there are a lot more Congress people out there with nude photos. You better believe there are.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of them,
I'll bet that's right.
A lot of them with R's at the end of their name, too. You know what I mean? They better play real
careful.
Given
the times we live in. To bring all this together, it sounds like she did pressure a staffer into a relationship, and she's been busted for it.
Pressured in what way? Because I didn't really capture that from the articles that I read that there was this throuple
and it was all
voluntary and like
on everybody's
part. The fact
that
this lady drinks alcohol and she smokes weed and she has a polyamorous relationship and all this stuff. Like, I couldn't care less about any of those things. It sounds like her drinking is probably interfering with her performing her duties at her job, which I think is great because she's a Democrat and she's in government, regardless of what her political affiliation is. She's in government, so I want her doing nothing. Right? Really. The less she does, the better. So
sit there in your office and chat on the phone.
She's nursing her hangover in the airport waiting room. Good.
Yeah.
You know, better that than being in Washington.
But this whole 2 points. One, technically speaking, if it can be proven that she pressured the staffer, then legitimate grounds for her to not be in her position anymore. But two, this idea of a misogynistic culture. This wouldn't be happening to a male legislator.
Probably would, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty darn egregious behavior, and I think a male would come in.
Oh my God! If
some hot water,
if the left had pictures of a nude Lindsey Graham smoking a bong,
yeah,
they wouldn't use that.
Exactly.
Even if it was illegal,
put it.
They would.
Mm-hmm.
Because now they're the new morality police. They should be standing firm. They should be saying. If the left believes in freedom, they should be saying that Representative Hill should be able to use whatever substances she wants. Yeah. She should be able to have whatever relationship she wants. Freedom, 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 freedom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then they should point to all the good work that she's doing if she's actually doing it.
Yeah.
But they don't have that. They don't care about that because they're now the new morality police.
Yes. And this one was just low-hanging fruit in terms of playing the victim card.
Yeah.
It was just, oh, God, we got our angle here. It's a misogynistic culture.
But they don't have any proof for that. Like, how do you know that whoever leaked this photo wasn't a woman?
Good point. Or
maybe the throuple person.
Yes.
Maybe that got to a female leak at some journalism outfit,
Now, this is one of those, you viewers and listeners, where we've covered a number of possible conclusions that one could draw. How about you folks? Chime in. Send us comments at our Facebook page or our YouTube channel, or email us and let us know where was she backed into a corner where she had to resign by a misogynistic culture, or is she refusing to take responsibility?
Who said
take
she had
ownership?
to?
Yeah.
Who said she had to? That's what I would like to know. Who said she had to resign? Was it
If
the
she's
Democratic
done
Party?
nothing wrong by anybody's standards, why did she resign?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it the Democratic Party who asked her to resign? Is it her constituents who?
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure, and I don't know that anyone knows yet.
This is what we need. We need a legion of barnstormers out there helping us fact check and
Yes.
helping and cultivating the news that we present. You know.
Yes.
So please do that for us.
Yeah, and also on this one, how do you see Katie Hill's resignation?
Yeah.
Should she have done it, or should she have done it on other grounds than she did?
And what's
to what extent does poor judgment figure into whether somebody should stay in Congress or not? I mean, all these
right?
things. Yeah.
What is the moral? What is the acceptable moral behavior for a congressperson?
Yes.
Male or female, whatever. What's the baseline that they should have?
What should we expect out of them?
Yeah. I don't think that their relationships or their
it'd be tough.
What they eat for breakfast really matters.
I mean, case in point, to talk about ours, after Mark Sanford's walk on the Appalachian Trail, which turned out to be a jaunt down to Argentina to see his mistress, and which busted up his marriage, he resigned as South Carolina governor, but a couple years later he was elected to Congress because people thought, he is a fiscal conservative, and they felt like he was an important voice in speaking for trying to do something to reduce the debt.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably best that Ms. Hill resigns, because she's probably not doing a good job.
And the poor girl, she seems to be a hot mess. I mean, I include her in my prayers. She's kind of lost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I don't think that's because she has a certain type of relationship.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean? Or she, smokes a bong. Like, those might be small pieces of the larger puzzle that is her complex life. And relationships are hard and all that kind of stuff. They're probably harder with more than one person.
You're juggling the feelings of two partners.
Right. Yeah. God, that sounds like a nightmare. God. For all the benefits you could get out of it, it sure sounds like it'd be a lot of work. Okay. So it's probably best that she resigns because she's not doing very good work. But I think that what they should be doing is standing behind her and going, no, she's doing great work. Look at all this advocacy and look at this and look at that. And the only reason they let her resign is because she's a horrible representative.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
How are we doing time-wise?
Well, it's time to move on to
segment 3.
Zuck Bucks. Okay, so Mr. Zuckerberg went to Washington and got grilled by Congress on what's funny, I think, is that
I never saw such self-righteous preening and all.
Oh my gosh, it was so bad.
Yeah.
And I don't take financial advice from me, but I would be very leery about buying stock in Facebook until they get a CEO that has a friggin' backbone. Okay. So I've got some clips of his testimony, his appearance in Congress, and the topic is they're creating a cryptocurrency, a digital currency, and a digital wallet so that people can exchange money over Facebook.
Okay.
And potentially other things. His take on it is that sending money, whether to a person in the United States or outside the United States or whatever, if you're going to send money to somebody, that it should be as easy as sending a message, right? And as fast as sending a message. And it should also be private, like cash.
Yeah.
Right? And so, of course, the government doesn't want that to happen, right? Because they don't want people to be able to anonymously transact. They don't want people to be able to freely and quickly transact. They want to be able to get any piece of that pie that they can.
Now, what are you people doing here?
Yeah. They want to spy on you and take your money, right?
Yes.
And
Right.
Mr. Zuckerberg is trying to prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
And I love that they are turning this guy into a libertarian. I just love it.
Yeah.
They're turning all the Silicon Valley leftists into right-leaning people when it comes to economics.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to play some of these clips, and I think that they speak for themselves. So this is, I think that this is Maxine Waters introducing the issue.
Okay.
Okay.
Today, we're here to examine the impact of Facebook on the financial services and housing sectors. Our sole witness is Facebook's chairman and CEO, Mark Zuckerberg. Facebook's plans to create a digital currency, Libra, and a digital wallet, Calibra, raise many concerns relating to privacy, trading risk, discrimination, opportunities for diverse-owned financial firms, national security, monetary policy, and the stability of the global financial system. Each month.
I don't know where she's getting that.
Yeah.
It creates discrimination and creates, like, what are you talking about?
Puts diversity at risk and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it becomes clear that this isn't about currency at all.
Yeah.
2.7 billion people use your products. That's over a third of the world's population. That's huge. That's so big that it's clear to me and to anyone who hears this list that perhaps you believe that you're above the law, and it appears that you are aggressively increasing the size of your company.
First of all, he's not breaking any law. They're not accusing him of breaking any law. She says, "Oh, you think you're above the law?" Like, no, I think I'm within the law.
Yeah. I mean,
You're above the law by accusing him of.
So far, she's thrown out lobbed a bunch of bombs that she's not, on a drive-by basis, she's not going to substantiate a damn one of them.
That's right. Yeah.
And are willing to step on or over anyone, including your competitors, women, people of color, your own users, and even our democracy.
Okay, so Zuckerberg is anti-democracy and he's a racist.
And he's stepping on people of color, women of color. Right? On what basis are you saying this?
And he shouldn't want to grow his business.
To get what you want.
Yes, he's been
All
growing
of these
aggressively.
problems I've outlined, and given the company's size and reach, it should be clear why we have serious concerns about your plans to establish a global digital currency that would challenge the U.S. dollar.
That's the real problem.
In fact, you have opened up a serious discussion about whether Facebook should be broken up.
On what grounds? And first
Talk
of all,
about a leap.
what I don't understand is how on earth these people think that they have the authority to break up a company like that. I realize that they do, according to all the history and precedent.
Yeah.
But like, for you to take something that's owned by somebody else and break it up, like, I think that is this is what horrible people do.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so let's listen to Zuck's opening statements here.
Okay.
Let me switch back to the other scene, and let's hear what Zuck has to say.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. As we sit here, there are more than 1 billion people around the world who don't have access to a bank account, but could through mobile phones if the right system existed. That includes more than 14 million people right here in the US. Being shut out of the financial system has real consequences for people's lives, and it's often the most disadvantaged people who pay the highest price. People pay far too high a cost and have to wait far too long to send money home to their families abroad. The current system is failing them. The financial industry is stagnant, and there is no digital financial architecture to support the innovation that we need. I believe that this problem can be solved, and Libra can help. The idea behind Libra is that sending money should be as easy and secure as sending a message. Libra will be a global payment system, fully backed by a reserve of cash and highly liquid assets.
Okay, so I'll spare everybody some of the rest of that, but one of the things I think is interesting is how anti-immigrant the left is in this regard. So Zuckerberg is basically saying, there's a lot of people in between people here and people there sending money home, right? And that transaction should be faster, easier, and less expensive, right? And if the left was actually pro-immigrant or pro-immigrant like they say they are, then they should be supportive of that. How do we get money? How do you grow the ability for people to support their families overseas? You know,
Good
they
point.
come here for rich opportunities. They earn their money and they send them back home. They should be making that transaction easy. They're standing in the way and costing those people money. It's evil.
Okay. Do you have Westchester?
I do, but I want to go one.
Okay,
I
sure.
want to go one place before that.
Okay.
Because so now we've heard Maxine Waters.
Yes.
We've heard, so she's implied that Zuckerberg is a racist, and that he is trying to bring down the U.S. dollar. He's this horrible robber baron. He has all these character flaws, and this one I think might be my favorite of this entire set.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
As in ripe. Yeah.
It's amazing.
As an exemplary, emblematic of the whole leftist desire to beat up on Zuck.
correct.
16.8 million, as confirmed by the Department of Justice, of the 18.4 million worldwide reports of child sexual abuse material are on Facebook. How much is this figure growing year after year? And if you enact end-to-end encryption, what will become of the children who will be harmed as a result that they're not reported?
Child exploitation is
Okay, so now he's a racist, he's a misogynist, he's a robber baron, he's this horrible, and he's also a child pornographer.
Yeah.
I mean, that haircut might indicate that.
is one of the most serious threats that we focus on.
What is Facebook doing? 16.8 of the 18.4 million.
Well, Congresswoman, the reason those reports come from Facebook, I don't. The reason why the vast majority come from Facebook is because I think we work harder than any other company to identify this behavior and report
What
it to
are you doing
the
to shut
FBI.
this down? These accounts peddle horrific illegal content that exploits women and children. What are you doing, Mr. Zuckerberg, to shut this down?
Congresswoman, we build sophisticated systems to find this behavior.
16.8 million and growing? Of the
Absolutely.
18.4 images?
Well, Congresswoman, I don't think Facebook is the only place on the internet where this behavior is happening. I think the fact that the vast majority of those reports come from us reflects the fact that we actually do a better job than everyone else of finding it and acting on it.
I think that's absolutely right.
Yes.
I think he's. I think it's absolutely libelous that this Representative Wagner, I'm not sure where she's from, but she's basically called him a child pornography peddler, and I think he should take legal action against her. I think that is slanderous. I think it's libelous, and I wish that he would stand up and be like, "Listen, right? Who the hell do you think you are? You know, to accuse me and accuse my company of these horrible things. We are a force for, and I don't know what Facebook, if it's a force for good in the world, but if I were leading it, if I were running it, I would say that, like, well, we're a force for good in the world. We've caught all these accounts. We've shut them down. We've done this. We've done that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And go pound sand, lady.
Yeah. He's not responsible for people coming up with the idea of engaging in child pornography, but his platform is doing a great job at catching it and shutting it down where they find it.
Yeah.
It's just that there's a whole lot of people making that really grotesque decision to get involved in that stuff, and it's they're doing what they can, but it's a real big problem, lady.
I'm going to skip one here that I have labeled Zuck as a giant racist because in the interest of time, but but there are so many of them, and I watched the hour and a half of it. There's 6 hours of this thing.
Okay.
I watched the hour and a half long one, and it was just over and over again. What are you doing for minorities? What are you doing for LGBT? What are you doing for? It's like
providing them a platform to talk to each other and post stuff. For heaven's sake,
I'm making them cheap money, and you know what I mean, like a service that they can use for free.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, very good
for minorities and LGBT, other than making them into a friggin' spectacle?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to go and...
Westchester Sandy?
Yes, I have this one. SFW, Sandy from Westchester,
Yes.
is evil incarnate.
Because this is another case of slander against the Daily Caller, which is a highly reputable website of journalism and opinion.
This one is probably a little bit longer, and I apologize for that, but I think it's worth... I think that's a pretty bad angle there.
Trigger warning, it'll make you mad if you love human freedom.
Yeah, right. I think it's indicative of this person's... oops, I got a little technical difficulty. Sorry, guys. Sorry, everybody. Okay. We got it. All right. We can bring our... Yeah, there we are. All right. Let's listen to Miss Westchester. I just think that this is so indicative of what a horrible person this is. But not as only is she horrible, like she's just a mean, terrible person. She has bad intentions, but not only that does she have bad intentions, she's really good at it. I think people, because she's kind of dumb, people write her off, but she is a master orator, and she is a master manipulator. Mm-hmm. She is very good at planting these little notions in people's minds that will stay there whether they're true or not, and she's very scary. So let's listen to what she has to say to Mr. Zuckerberg.
You announced recently that the official policy of Facebook now allows politicians to pay to spread disinformation in 2020 elections and in the future. So I just want to know how far I can push this in the next year. Under your policy, using census data as well, could I pay to target predominantly black zip codes and advertise them the incorrect election date?
No, Congresswoman, you couldn't. We have, even for these policies around the newsworthiness of content that politicians say, and the general principle that I believe that...
But you said you're not going to fact check my ads.
We have, if anyone, including a politician, is saying things that can cause, that is calling for violence, or could risk imminent physical harm, or voter or census suppression, when we roll out the census suppression policy, we will take that content down.
So...
Maybe politicians should fact check their own ads.
Yes.
Maybe they shouldn't be lying sacks of garbage.
Well, and there's this leftist, the old leftist tactic of feigned pity against a minority demographic in this case black. She's basically saying that black people can't hit their own tail ends with a yardstick. They're easily fooled into believing in an incorrect election day.
That's right. They're too stupid. AOC is saying black people are too stupid to know what day election day is.
Yeah, in a nutshell, you bet. Yeah, thank you.
And she's also saying that it's Zuckerberg's responsibility to fact check those ads before they can be published, right? So I think she's blaming the victim. I think she's saying, well, Facebook, you shouldn't have been wearing that miniskirt.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, let's listen to the rest of...
So there is some threshold where you will fact check political advertisements. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, Congresswoman, yes, for specific things like that, where there's imminent risk of harm.
Could I run ads targeting Republicans in primaries saying that they voted for the Green New Deal?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Would I be able to run advertisements on Facebook targeting Republicans in primaries saying that they voted for the Green New Deal? I mean, if you're not fact-checking political advertisements, I'm just trying to understand the bounds here. What's fair game?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I think...
So you don't know if I'll be able to do that?
I think probably.
Yeah, I think you probably lie on my platform because you're
with a complete lack of fact-checking on political advertisements?
Well, Congresswoman, I think lying is bad, and I think if you were to run an ad that had a lie, that would be bad. That's different from it being, in our position, the right thing to do to prevent your constituents or people in an election from seeing that you had lied.
So you won't take down lies, or you will take down lies? I think it's just a pretty simple yes or no.
Congresswoman,
I'm not talking about spin. I'm talking about actual disinformation.
In a democracy,
Okay.
I believe that people should be able to see for themselves what politicians that they may or may not vote for
So
are
you
saying,
won't take
judge
them
their
down.
character for themselves.
So you won't take, you may flag that it's wrong, but you won't take it down.
He wants to leave it to his customers to
Congresswoman,
make the judgment for
It's
themselves.
it depends on the
Right.
context that it shows up. Organic post ads, the treatment is a little.
One
I think it's like he doesn't have the ability to know all the nuances of what's true out there. And she's like, I don't mean spin. I just mean incorrect things. It's like, okay, well, how do I know what's on your flyer, what day your band is playing? You know what I mean? Or
Exactly.
What, if it says election day is January 3rd, okay, I don't, what algorithm are they going to build in to find that? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And at what expense?
Yeah.
All right, just a few more minutes of this.
Question.
And
In your ongoing dinner
bang our heads
parties
into
with
something else.
far-right figures, some of who advance the conspiracy theory that white supremacy is a hoax, did you discuss so-called social media bias against conservatives, and do you believe there is a bias?
Congresswoman, so I don't remember everything that was in the in the
That's
question.
all right. I'll move on. Can you explain
We're
why
gonna
you've
move on.
named
All right, we're gonna move on, you asshole.
Daily
Drive-by
Caller, a
accusation.
publication white?
Exactly. That's why I think she's totally a master manipulator, because she can drop something like that and just move on, and we'll just leave that notion that you weren't able to defend in the minds of the public.
Yeah.
well documented with ties to white supremacists as an official fact checker for Facebook?
Congresswoman, sure. We actually don't appoint the independent fact checkers. They go through an independent organization called the Independent Fact Checking Network that has a rigorous standard for who they allow to serve as a fact checker.
So you would say that white supremacist tied publications meet a rigorous standard for fact checking?
She's evil.
Thank you.
Congresswoman, I would say that we're not the one assessing that standard. The International Fact Checking Network is the one who is setting that standard. Hey, investor.
All right.
But she goes on to cite the Daily Caller and claims they have ties to white supremacy.
What's that substantiated on?
Exactly.
I mean, it's obviously not substantiated on anything. Is
Yes,
it?
right. If she had anything real solid, she'd have slipped it in. I'm quite sure.
I mean, I honestly don't know what that.
I don't read the Daily Caller on a daily basis. It's a little Trumpist for my taste,
Yeah.
but it's solid, reputable journalism and opinion. I've never seen anything that even had the faintest whiff of white supremacy.
I would love to know for sure. So if you've got some information on that,
Yes.
will you send that to barneyandclydeshow at gmail.com or post it in the comments? Just a link to whatever that's backed
what the
by.
hell
But-
she's getting at.
Because again, I think that that's libelous, and I think it's disgusting that because someone's in government, that they can get away with accusing someone like Mark Zuckerberg of all these horrible things, forgetting all of the things that he's brought to society that they're using. They're all using Facebook to sell ads and to promote their candidacies and promote their policies and all that kind of stuff. So, and they do that for free on his network a lot of times. But also for the Daily Caller, like if that can't be substantiated in some kind of way, then I think that they should sue her. I think that they should take every penny that she's made in Congress, and I think that they should remove her immediately. I think she should be is it impeached? But I think she should be removed from her seat if she's lying about the having white supremacist ties to this journalistic organization, and she's accusing people of being racist and of having bias against people. Like, okay.
And what did you discuss at your dinner party with far right figures?
Yeah.
And I can't remember who all was at his dinner party, but I didn't see a far right.
Yeah, like Tim Cook, CEO of Apple. Is that your far right figure? You know?
Yeah. She reserves the right to tell us who's far right. Yeah.
And this is the thing. Like, there are real far right whack jobs out there.
Yeah,
There are
the
real
alt-right. Yeah,
there
you
are
bet.
real white supremacists. Yeah,
Absolutely.
they exist. And
Jeff Zuckerberg's not going to invite him to his home for dinner.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And if somebody was a prominent figure in some other kind of way in Silicon Valley or something like that, and you do business with people, and you don't know their personal lives, and you don't know other things about them.
Which
you
is
don't
the
know
way the
what they
market's
support.
supposed to work. Milton Friedman used to say, two people that intensely dislike each other can come to an agreement in an economic transaction and better their each of them better their lives.
Yeah, yeah.
They don't have to know each other's blood type and
Well, yeah,
maternal
exactly.
grandmother's names and all that.
Exactly. And I don't think that, if Mark Zuckerberg or anybody else had... I mean, business is business. It's like diplomacy. You might meet with a leader you detest in a diplomatic fashion, right? Or you may meet with somebody who later shows